Okay, I think we're all set to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is Muazzez Riordan. I am the project manager for the proposed Route 20 Corridor Improvements Project, which will be presented today. I work in the project management section at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's Highway Division headquarters in Boston. Welcome to our live virtual design public hearing. Please be advised that this virtual public hearing will be recorded. During this presentation, we will discuss the existing issues in the project area and explain the proposed design. The purpose of this meeting is to inform the public of the project and solicit feedback. I will now introduce Leah Gradstein and Kayla Salza, who are the producers and facilitators of this hearing.
Thank you so much, Muazzez. My name is Kayla, and I'm one of the MassDOT producers this evening, providing tech support and facilitating questions alongside with Leah. Let me take a moment to go over some Zoom basics. If you need to call into the meeting, you can call 301-715-8592 and use webinar ID 899-3050-2162. Zoom tech support can be reached at 1-888-799-9666. On the bottom left, you will find your audio controls. The chat function is disabled for this meeting, so please direct your written questions to the Q&A box. You can type questions at any time, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation, where we will also allow participants to ask questions verbally. We would also like to let you know that we do have a CART reporter providing closed captions for the meeting. If you would like to turn those on, thank you so much. I would again like to let everyone know that this public meeting is being recorded. All parts of public hearings are public records, so MassDOT can retain and distribute all parts of the hearing. If you type a question or ask one verbally, know that you will be a part of the record. So please use both functions for project-related business only. If you're not comfortable being included in those types of records, you may choose to just listen in today or excuse yourself from the meeting entirely. Again, we will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. All questions and comments are welcome. However, please refrain from any disrespectful comments. Lastly, a survey will pop up at the end of this hearing. Please take the time to answer it. Your feedback is important to us. On your screen now is the MassDOT Diversity and Civil Rights Statement. If you are interested in learning more about our diversity and civil rights policies and how they affect our public meetings and hearings, please contact the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. I will now hand things back over to our project manager, Muazzez.
Thank you, Kayla. Before getting into project details, I would like to introduce the project team and panelists for tonight's presentation. Joining me here are Ann Sullivan and Joseph Frawley from MassDOT District 3 office, Michael Ruderman from MassDOT Right-of-Way office, Kevin Mizikar, Shrewsbury Town Manager, Colin White and Brad Fiocchi from HNTB MassDOT's design consultant for this project. The notice of the design public hearing appeared in the Telegram and Gazette and the Community Advocate on May 9th and May 16th of 2024. The hearing was advertised on MassDOT's social media. The notice and the flyer were also posted on MassDOT website on April 2nd, 2024. A handout has been prepared and posted to the MassDOT website along with this presentation. You will find documentation which may be useful to you in understanding the project and submitting formal comments in response to this presentation. Please scan the QR code shown in the screen. You will be directed to the MassDOT website. We are currently at the 25% design stage for the Shrewsbury Route 20 project, which means that the plans are still being developed and we welcome your feedback. The estimated total project cost is about $30 million, which will come from federal aid funding, with the Federal Highway Administration funding 80% of the total construction cost. MassDOT funds the remaining 20%. This project must be programmed in the statewide transportation improvement program in the appropriate federal fiscal year in order for MassDOT to solicit bids for eventual construction. The total estimated cost of the project does not include any right-of-way acquisition costs. The design is expected to be completed in the summer of 2026. Construction is expected to be completed within 2 to 3 seasons after the notice to proceed. We will be introducing the project, provide some history, what we are trying to accomplish, and provide information on the design. At the end, we will review our next steps and also have time for comments and questions. The project is located on Route 20 in Shrewsbury and stretches 1 mile from the Green Street, South Street intersection to the Valente Drive intersection. For purposes of defining the existing and proposed roadway configuration, the project is split into 2 portions, the eastern portion and the western portion. These 2 portions of the project are divided by the wetland area near the middle of the project. The western half of Route 20 within the project limits consists of 1 eastbound travel lane and 2 westbound travel lanes. The eastern half of Route 20 consists of 2 travel lanes in each direction. In addition to evaluating the corridor, 6 major intersections were evaluated for improvements. Previous to this project, MassDOT and the town prepared a master plan for transportation improvements to address existing issues and support economic development of the Route 20 corridor within Shrewsbury. In March 2020, the final public meeting was conducted for the master plan. The preferred concepts derived from public meetings showed support for shared use paths, sidewalks, and turning lanes to improve safety and congestion issues. In May of 2021, MassDOT initiated the project for the reconstruction of Route 20 at the eastern side of Shrewsbury. In September of 2021, a multidisciplinary team of engineers, town staff, and emergency response personnel conducted a road safety audit to evaluate the existing safety issues within the project area. This road safety audit was used to guide the selection of the preferred alternative, which was completed in May of 2022. In September of 2022, a virtual public information meeting was held to inform the public of the plans for this reconstruction project. In September of 2023, HNTB submitted the 25% initial design plans and documents to MassDOT for their review. A colored rendition of the design plans will be presented later in the meeting. Now, Colin White from HNTB will discuss the existing issues, the alternatives studied, and our proposed design.
Great. Thank you, Moses. So some of the existing issues on Route 20 within the project area include high crash locations, high potential for fatal and injury type crashes, and high travel speeds. Walnut Street was identified as a highway safety improvement program cluster from 2013 to 2015, as was the intersection of Route 20 and Valente Drive. In addition, the eastern portion of this project is identified as a top 5 ranking for fatal and injury crash severities in the statewide and central Massachusetts Metropolitan Planning Organization. Increased roadway congestion from anticipated business development is also a concern for the future. Some of the roadway deficiencies that contribute to the issues include substandard shoulder widths, a lack of exclusive turning lanes, sight distance issues for vehicles on the side streets and also vehicles on Route 20, and a lack of bike and pedestrian accommodations. So MassDOT and HNTB took a close look at the crash history of the project area. In the western portion of the project, many of the crashes were due to general congestion, left-turning vehicles onto Route 20, and the traffic signal at the South Street and Green Street intersection. However, it was found that most of the crashes in the eastern portion of the project involved a vehicle turning left, either into or out of a side street or driveway. In fact, almost 3/4 of the crashes involved a left-turning vehicle. So, what do we want to accomplish given these existing issues and roadway deficiencies? The purpose of this project is to improve traffic safety for all road users, including non-motorists, along Route 20 from the Green Street, South Street intersection to the Valente Drive intersection. To reduce high travel speeds, to accommodate future traffic conditions with respect to planned developments, and to improve congestion issues within the project area. So now I can get into some of the alternatives that were considered when we were starting to think about the design for this corridor. But before that, I'd like to show the existing cross sections along the roadway. Here you can see in the eastern portion at the top, there's 3 lanes, one travel lane eastbound and 2 travel lanes westbound. There's also a traffic signal at the South Street and Green Street intersection. And then in the eastern portion, on the bottom of your screen, there's 4 lanes, 2 eastbound and 2 westbound. This slide shows the existing control at each intersection. The South Street and Green Street intersection is signalized. And then on the bottom left, the South Street East intersection is not signalized, and left turns out are prohibited. So it's right out only. The Walnut Street intersections are slightly offset and both not signalized. And then bottom right, the Valente Drive intersection is not signalized, and both left turn and through movements out of Valente Drive are prohibited. So, alternative 1. This is a preferred alternative from the Shrewsbury Master Plan study, with some minor adjustments to the cross-section dimensions to meet the current MassDOT standards. This alternative provides a shared use path for pedestrians and cyclists on the south side of the road and provides a sidewalk for pedestrians on the north side. The western portion of the project includes the addition of a second eastbound travel lane, dedicated left turn lanes at select intersections, and the existing traffic signal at the South Street and Green Street intersection is improved, and a new traffic signal is proposed at the Valente Drive intersection. On the eastern portion of the project, a 2-way left turn lane is provided for this alternative. So alternative 2 builds off of the master plan alternative. So as in alternative one, there's a shared use path for pedestrians and cyclists on the south side and a sidewalk for pedestrians on the north side. Also similar to alternative one, signal improvements and additional turning lanes would be provided at South Street, Green Street, and the South Street East would remain right out only. However, alternative two proposes a roundabout at Valente Drive intersection instead of a traffic signal. And a second roundabout is proposed near the middle of the corridor. Instead of a two-way left turn lane in the eastern portion, a raised median is proposed between the two roundabouts. And this is the main difference between alternatives 1 and 2. So what's the preferred alternative? Preferred alternative is alternative 2. MassDOT selected alternative 2 as the preferred alternative based on several factors, including safety, the ability to address the purpose of the project, and environmental considerations. Now we can take a closer look at the proposed improvements for the different areas within the project. So we can start at the western end of the project. This is Green Street and South Street. There's an additional westbound left lane and westbound right lanes, and an additional southbound left lane, as well as crosswalks across all approaches and pedestrian signals for those crosswalks. Also improved signal timings and an exclusive pedestrian phase for people to cross. The South Street to the right of the screen will have a left turn lane into it, but South Street will be limited to right turn out only, no left turns, as existing. Vehicles will have the option to reverse direction at the roundabout in the eastern portion of the project, about 1/3 of a mile away. So in the yellow color, you can see the 5-foot sidewalk. It's on the north side. And then in the gray color, you can see the 10-foot shared use path on the south side. And this will run along the entire corridor. So moving further east, Sunbelt Rentals driveway will be right out only, and Commons Drive will remain right out only as it is today. Left turn lanes on Route 20 will be provided for both Commons Drive and Sunbelt Rentals. A crosswalk will be provided across Route 20 between Commons Drive and Sunbelt Rentals driveway. The crosswalk will be controlled by a pedestrian hybrid beacon, where vehicles will have to stop for a red light to let the pedestrians cross. And a raised median will start on this western side of the middle wetland area of the project. And we'll also propose some retaining walls to avoid permanent impacts to Article 97 land and increased impacts to wetlands. So this is the middle portion of the project where a partial 2-lane roundabout is provided at the Lumber Liquidators and 864 Hartford Turnpike driveways. The roundabout is located here to provide opportunities for vehicles to reverse direction to access all of the abutting properties between the wetlands and Valente Drive. The roundabout will be designed to accommodate trucks, including large tractor trailers and lowboy trailers. With the slower speeds at the roundabout, crosswalks across Route 20 will be provided. These crosswalks will also be controlled by a pedestrian hybrid beacon, where vehicles will have to stop for a red light to let the pedestrians cross. A raised median is proposed between this roundabout and the proposed roundabout at the Valenti Drive intersection. All driveways between the two roundabouts will be right in and right out only. So continuing east, you see the raised median is shown on this slide also. All driveways and the two Walnut Street intersections will be right in, right out only. And as mentioned earlier, the Walnut Street intersection is a high crash location. So the turn restrictions, combined with providing opportunities to U-turn at both roundabouts, will provide a significant safety benefit. And here we are at the eastern end of the project of Valenti Drive in Shrewsbury Village, where we have another partial 2-lane roundabout. Similar to the middle roundabout, this roundabout will be designed to accommodate trucks, including large tractor trailers and lowboy trailers. And the crosswalks will also be controlled by pedestrian hybrid beacons. The intersection of Route 20 and Valenti Drive is also a high crash location, so a roundabout will provide a significant safety benefit for the intersection. So this preferred alternative, some of the benefits of this alternative is that unlike traffic signals, roundabouts can be combined with raised medians to better manage access along the corridor. The existing crashes associated with left turns into and out of the driveways and side streets are addressed with this. It was mentioned earlier that managing speeds was also part of the project. Roundabouts include deflection that require vehicles to slow down to 25 to 30 miles an hour, the roundabouts, regardless of the time of day. Both alternatives improve accommodations for pedestrians and cyclists, but the addition of the roundabout in the middle of the project provides an additional safe location for pedestrians and cyclists across Route 20. This preferred alternative provides a significant reduction in the number of crashes. So the predicted reduction in crashes for this preferred alternative. As part of this alternative analysis, we prepared the safety analysis, which is done to compare the impacts of design decisions on the number of crashes that may occur in the future. The chart on the left side of the screen compares the existing roadway configuration to alternative 1, the master plan in green, and alternative 2 with the roundabouts for the eastern portion of the project in blue. The chart shows a 70% reduction in total crashes in this area for the roundabouts alternative, but more specifically, an 85% reduction in the types of crashes that result in injury or fatalities. The safety analysis of the signal improvements at South Street and Green Street intersection, shown on the right of your screen, showed a reduction of 15% in total crashes and 30% in the crashes that result in fatalities or injuries. So, how will your property be impacted? Now I would like to turn the presentation over to Michael Ruderman, representing MassDOT's Right-of-Way Bureau, to discuss the right-of-way process.
Thank you very much, Colin. Yes, my name is Michael Ruderman. I am a member of MassDOT's Right-of-Way section. The Right-of-Way Bureau is charged with acquiring all of the rights, whether they are temporary or permanent, private and public land, for the design, construction, and implementation of this project. We are governed by state and federal provisions that instruct us in the proper way of going about this. Primarily, they are about notice, about how we must present the project to Any owners whose property will be affected, as it says here, affected property owners' rights are protected under our state constitution, Mass General Laws, Chapter 79. As this project does receive federal funding, there are federal protections as well under Title III of the Real Property Acts of 1970. The current design does say that there could be takings, whether permanent or a temporary, on private property abutting this project. But here's the most important thing. If your property is going to be affected by a taking, whether a temporary one or a permanent one, I and my agents in the right-of-way section will get in touch with you. We'll make an appointment at your convenience. We'll sit down together. We'll go over all the details of what's going to happen on your property. So you don't have to worry about waking up one morning and finding out, oh, there's construction going on my front yard and nobody told me. No, we will tell you what's going to happen if it's going to be on your property well in advance of the project. At whenever it's convenient, we'll have an interview and go through all of the details. Particularly, we'll describe the protections that are afforded to you under state and federal law. One of the most important of these is that you must be compensated for anything the state needs to take in order to do this job, whether it's a temporary taking or a permanent taking. We'll cover all of those details with you. We'll make sure that you have a contact within right-of-way that you can ask any questions of. So we're not just one big bureaucracy of 5,000 people. You'll have a person who is specifically assigned to your case that you can keep informed with what's happening on your property. So we will make personal contact with you at a time of your convenience, and you can trust us that we will give you plenty of notice for how you're going to be compensated and your rights if you don't think that that compensation that MassDOT offers to you is sufficient. We'll explain all of those details to you. I'll turn it back over to the presenter, Colin. I'll stay on this meeting for the rest of the night in case anyone has questions about right-of-way issues. Colin, I'll give it back to you.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so how will bikes and pedestrians be impacted? So, like I've stated, the project will include a shared use path on the south side where bikes and pedestrians can use that path of Route 20 and a sidewalk on the north side of Route 20. Pedestrian and bicycles will be separated from vehicles by the roadway shoulder, curbs, and a grass buffer. The project will also introduce crosswalks across Route 20 at 4 locations within this mile stretch. The east end of the project roundabout, the middle roundabout, the crosswalk at Commons Drive, and the west end of the project at the traffic signal. So environmental impacts. I will now give the presentation back to Moises to discuss environmental permitting and finish our presentation.
Thank you, Michael and Colin. Measures to avoid, minimize, and mitigate environmental impacts during project construction will be implemented. As the project advances, any impacts that are identified will be reviewed by the appropriate agencies. The town and its residents will be notified and engaged throughout the entire permitting process. What is the construction approach? Access will be maintained during construction. There will be lane closures and traffic shifts. Bicyclists and pedestrians will continue to have access to the roadway during construction. If necessary, roadway closures and detours will be limited to short durations. After this design public hearing, we will work on the next design submission, which we refer to as the 75% submission. This will be submitted later this summer. The design is expected to be advertised and bid in 2026. Your feedback is very important to the success of the project. In addition to this meeting, we encourage you to reach out to us with written comments. Emailing us at the address shown on the screen is preferred. Mass DOT project management at dot.state.ma.us is the email address. We encourage you to do this within 10 business days of this presentation, so your comments can be incorporated into the design where feasible. Please be sure to include the project number 610825 in the subject line of your email. We will keep the meeting open until 8 p.m. for live questions and discussions. Before we open this forum up to comments from general public, I would now like to ask if there are any public officials present, and if they would like to speak. I request that those who speak type your name and title in the Q&A box. In the meantime, I will now turn the floor over to Kayla to explain the procedure.
Sure, thank you. So to ask a question verbally, you can click on the raise hand icon and I'll give you permission to unmute your microphone. If you prefer to type your question, you may use the Q&A box. For each method, please ask only one question at a time so that we can effectively address your question. You can always submit another question and re-enter the queue later on. Finally, once you do choose to leave the Zoom meeting, a survey will pop up. It's very short and helps us understand how we're doing with our virtual meetings, so please consider filling it out. Dan from our Legislative Affairs Office, like to ask if there are any officials who you see would like to recognize. I don't think I see any hands.
Yeah, I know we had Representative Kane with us. If Representative Kane, who's been an absolute champion of this project, would like to speak, you are more than welcome to, Rep. If not, that's also fine.
Yes, good evening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this public hearing tonight. Thank you to MassDOT for all of the work that you've been doing for years on this project, which, as you mentioned earlier, came out of a traffic study and safety study of the Route 20 corridor. I'm very interested in hearing what the feedback is from residents on the meeting tonight, and certainly hope that people, if they're not going to speak tonight, will take time to submit their feedback within the 10-day period that is requested by MassDOT. I also want to thank the town officials for all of their work in supporting this project. The cost has gone up due to just increases in construction cost. And I'm very grateful to MassDOT for ensuring that the funds are there to proceed in fiscal year 26 for having this project started in the beginning of construction. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, I think that's the only elected official that's with us, so back to you.
Great, thanks, Dan. So we're going to go back and forth between written questions and hands raised. So I think we'll start with some of the written questions. Leah, if you'd like to read those.
Sure thing. So the first written question we got was from Scott, who asks, why is the improvement plan starting at South Street going east? What about the traffic issues going west of South Street all the way to Route 140? Thank you for your question, Scott.
I don't know if someone from MassDOT is on that could answer that.
Hi, this is Ann Sullivan from MassDOT, the district office. There are, we're aware there are concerns along the corridor. Not just in this location. I think this section was given a higher priority from the master plan, just because of the safety concerns in this eastern section. It's difficult to have a huge project. We do have to do it in pieces. So, we're starting with this section first due to the safety concerns.
Thank you, Anne. Looking for some folks who haven't asked questions yet. Next one I'll ask is from Sean Flynn, who asks, what model truck was the roundabout designed for, WB67 or WB50? Thank you, Sean.
Yes, the roundabouts are designed to accommodate the larger WB67. That's pretty standard now to use that larger vehicle for design purposes. Also mentioned that some of the other truck types along the corridor that use this corridor were considered in the design as well, including trucks with lower trailers.
Great, thank you, Colin. The next question is from Rajesh. What is the premise for sidewalks and shared use paths on Route 20 in this section? Any data points on existing usage by pedestrians? Thank you, Rajesh.
Colin, did you want me to take that one?
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that would be good.
Okay. So just in general, MassDOT is committed to, providing transportation for all users as part of the master plan, which was kind of a very public process. And, between the MassDOT and the town, it was identified as a need. There is, we do have some mapping that shows potential for usage, and it's considered a medium potential. So, there is that a potential for usage if the facility is there.
Excellent. Thank you, Anne. I'll ask one more question from the written Q&A, and then we'll move to some raised hands. So the next question is from John. The intersection at Valentine Drive is at the crest of a hill. Today, traffic exiting from the Christmas tree shops can't see westbound traffic from Northborough due to that hill and the roadway curvature. Are there plans to lessen the hill at this location to improve sightlines? Thank you, John.
Yeah, I can take that. And if you wouldn't mind going to slide 30, you can kind of look at this location. So like John mentioned, this is Valenti Drive and the Shrewsbury Village Drive. And this is, as you stated, at the top of the hill, basically, the crest. So what the roundabout does that's really good for this situation is slow vehicles down to 25 to 30 miles an hour, or maybe they even need to stop if there's someone already in the roundabout. And no one's making a left turn. So a lot of the issues that you see out there today won't be there with this roundabout design. You'll make a right turn into the roundabout and then exit right out of there. The sight lines have definitely been considered, and you don't need as long of a sight line if the vehicles are going slower. So that also helps. Was that plans to lessen? So no, there are no plans to reduce the profile to lessen the hill at all. But this roundabout should improve a lot of the safety issues that you see today.
All right, I think we're going to switch over to one of the hands that's been raised. So Greg, You should be able to unmute your microphone and ask your question.
Thank you. Can you hear me, I guess?
We can.
Good. Yeah, my question is, I did see that both the Green Street and South Street intersections are part of this plan, but there's also a talk of a proposed connector road between Green and South. Is that still planned separately from this, or would it be required if both those intersections are being redone?
I can start off at least, see if anyone else wants to jump in afterwards, but I think I know what you're talking about, and that is outside of our project limits. If the plans are finalized, we can take that into consideration for the traffic patterns at both intersections on Route 20. But yeah, that is outside of our limits.
And Alan, I'll just add in as well that there are I know discussions that the town is having about building the connector between South Street South and Green Street. As Colin said, at this point, it's not something that we're including in the project. The proposed plan for right now is assuming that connector isn't in place and that people coming out of South Street South would be able to take the right turn and use the proposed roundabout in the middle section to reverse direction, providing access for them to be able to head westbound on Route 20 or towards South Street North. Certainly, yes, if the town's plans regarding that connector road are advanced, as Colin said, we'll account for that in our project. Thank you for the comment. Question.
Thank you both. I think unless someone sees more raised hands, we'll go back to the written Q&A for a bit. So the next question is from Steve, who says, did you simulate traffic in the roundabouts with a high concentration of tractor trailers as a large regional UPS center is proposed on Centec, as well as the existing high concentration of tractor trailers on Route 20? Will double tractor trailers be any issue with the rotaries also? I'm concerned about rotaries during snow and large snowbanks also. Will that be an issue? Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I can certainly start us off again. Yes, we definitely simulated traffic in the roundabouts. In fact, we took traffic counts, which include classifications. So we know what types of vehicles are there, the truck percentage, and apply that to our analysis. So those are, all those trucks are included in the operations of these roundabouts. One thing about roundabouts versus traffic signals is, unless there's someone in the roundabout, you don't actually have to stop. So we see that as a benefit to trucks sometimes, that they can keep rolling on through versus signals. Will double tractor trailers be any issue with the rotaries also? One thing about these specific roundabouts is that they're 2-lane along Route 20, which does give more space for trailers when the trucks are turning. And then, yeah, just in terms of the snow banks, I don't think it'll be an issue, but maybe maintenance or someone else from MassDOT can speak to that more.
Sure, Colin. I'll just mention from the district's perspective, we've built quite a number of multi-lane roundabouts in the last 10 years or so. And so our our maintenance forces have gotten quite a bit better at dealing with snow removal in roundabouts. And so, certainly during the middle of an event, I'm sure there will be, some snow within the roundabout, like there is at most of our intersections. But we would be working with our maintenance forces to make sure that as the storm wraps up, they can push the snow off the roadway within the roundabout itself, and clear the apron that is provided for the truck movements as well. So it's something we wouldn't expect to be an issue, and we'd certainly be working with our maintenance staff as we're going through final design to make sure that we're accounting for snow removal as part of how we design both of these roundabouts. Thank you.
Thank you both. The next question is from Connie. Is there any plan in place from now until the start of construction to slow the speed of vehicles on Route 20? I hardly ever see any police presence on this stretch of road. Thank you, Connie.
I think that I would also have to pass on to someone from MassDOT. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So we can certainly reach out to the town of Shrewsbury and see what assistance they're able to provide in terms of some additional enforcement along the roadway. I will just additionally mention, certainly in the presentation, Colin and Muzez both mentioned the high vehicle speeds on the corridor, and I think I will just point out that certainly one of the reasons why the design is what it is because we're acknowledging the high speeds on the corridor, and that enforcement can only do so much. And so certainly looking at a design with the roundabouts helps hopefully create a more self-enforcing roadway that will hopefully help address the high travel speeds that are observed out there. Thank you.
Yeah, we also have someone from the town at this meeting. Kevin.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I appreciate the question, and we certainly do our best to resource traffic patrols as much as we can along the Route 20 corridor. Call volumes in Shrewsbury, with not currently having a dedicated traffic division, is challenging for us, and call volumes mean we're often just responding. But I've taken this as a note, and I will definitely have a conversation with Chief Anderson about this and get a plan for patrols. I also do just want to note we're grateful that when we studied the corridor just a couple of years ago, we were able to reduce the speed limit itself in certain sections, which is a benefit, and thanks to the partnership with MassDOT on those efforts.
Thank you both. The next question is from Aaron, who asks, why are we going back to rotaries when many were removed from roadways many years ago? Thank you, Aaron.
Yes. Rotaries actually have a different definition. These are roundabouts. So the roundabouts are generally smaller than bigger rotaries, and most importantly, the speeds are lower. So what we find is that those really bad crashes, those ones that could be, cause fatalities or injuries, are significantly reduced with roundabouts, and safety is number one. And we found that these roundabouts can really improve safety. So there's many design elements that go into them to improve safety and still keep the traffic flowing well.
Thank you. The next question is from Diana, who asks, I know it's not currently in scope, but are future plans for other areas of Route 20, for example, especially between Grafton Street and Route 140. So, yeah, thank you, Diana.
I would like to call on someone from MassDOT.
Yeah, I can take this one. So we do have a project at the intersection of Route 20 and Grafton Street that we're working on the design. That's currently at 25%, and it's programmed. Currently, it's programmed in 2028, and that's just that intersection. We don't really get into the 140 ramps at all. So that's one project. Other than that, we don't have anything formally, but we kind of continue to look at the master plan and know that that's kind of something as we move forward, we want to, try to work on that in sections.
Great, thank you. All right, we've got some more questions coming up, and I'll remind people that they can raise their hands as well. I'll also remind people that we're getting a little bit closer to 8, so if you've got somewhere else to be, that's okay. You can also email your comments in mass.projectmanagement@dot.state.ma.us is that email, and put the project number 610825 in the subject line. We appreciate all the comments that we get. So the next question I'll read is from Sandra. There have been several building changes / increases along Route 20 since the completion of the master plan. The traffic concerns throughout this roadway are continuing to increase. The proposed UPS facility on Centec will bring significantly more truck traffic. Trucks coming out of Centec and going left onto Route 20 going west are a major concern, as it is already a very tight turn for cars. I hope this intersection, Centec and Cherry Street, needs to be reviewed by the town and the state. Thank you for that comment, Sandra.
So I guess I'll start with this one and just mention that certainly when the master plan was prepared, we anticipated a significant amount of development along this corridor, including a facility at the site that's now the proposed UPS facility on Centec Boulevard. So we accounted for a lot of additional development happening in Shrewsbury, and some as well in Grafton and Westboro and Northborough. So we really tried to account for that. And as part of this project, we've worked closely with the town of Shrewsbury to kind of keep updating those numbers to make sure that we are accounting for development that's happening. So the goal of the master plan and this project was to really kind of be forward thinking in terms of that way of planning for these developments that were happening. In terms of specific, the specific kind of point about the proposed development on Centec Boulevard and in the need for additional work at Route 20 and Centec Boulevard, if there is a need for a access permit, then Mass DOT will be involved. Certainly, we, with the master plan, laid out with the town a pretty significant amount of improvement we anticipated would be needed, and we'll certainly work with the developer and the town as needed to work on developing how to implement improvements at that intersection. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. The next question is from Christopher, who asks, was there any traffic surveys of traffic going in and out of 864 and or LL Flooring? Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. All along the corridor. I think there are maybe 6 or 7 intersections that we did traffic counts at, not just along the corridor. So we do have data for how many vehicles are entering and exiting at those two driveways, as well as many of the others. Thanks.
Thank you. And then the next question is from Krista, who asks, is there data where there are requests for an increased demand for sidewalks on this extremely busy road with mostly limited industrial and commercial developments along Route 20 with some residential housing? Also, have ped bridges been considered instead of the walk signals to stop traffic for people to cross? And is the proposed plan, in the proposed plan, will the road be separated by barriers like Route 9 currently has? Thank you, Krista.
Yeah, so let's see. ISDOT does keep data of the potential for walking trips and bike trips in certain areas, and I believe this area has medium potential for both. However, we do want to make sure that we're part of MassDOT's initiatives is to provide pedestrians and bicycle accommodations for every project. I could keep going, but do you wanted to jump in, Anne, or?
No, well, do you want to try the next one? I'll just say, to do it grade separated would be very difficult. It has to meet ADA, so, there's a limit to how steep the slope could be on any kind of, approach to a grade separated. So it just, in terms of the engineering, it would be very difficult.
Yes.
And then the last question about the median. I'm guessing that's the median.
It seems like
be separated by barriers.
Right. So the raised median will just be like the curb, like a 6-inch median, concrete median in the middle of the road. We're not proposing any type of barrier or guardrail down the middle of the road. No. But and then just in terms of pedestrians crossing the roads, the traffic volumes are taken into consideration when we look at how safe a crossing could be. What should be the control for that crosswalk? Should there be just signs or a signal, or should it be grade crossing? So in the analysis, we saw that pedestrian hybrid beacons, where the vehicles actually have to stop for you to cross, were appropriate for this type of roadway.
All right, thank you both. Since it's relevant, I'll read a comment that just came in from Stephen that says, please include opportunities for foot and bicycle traffic. So thank you for that comment, Stephen. Now I'll go back up and take some questions from people who've already asked a question, because I've gotten to everyone at least once. So from Scott, turning left onto Route 20 from the Stony Hill development is taking your life into your own hands. It'll be worse when the new apartment complex is built and the massive UPS site being built off Centec Boulevard. That one was a comment.
Stony Hill, is that outside of our project limits? Someone from MassDOT?
Yeah, that's outside of the limits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've had meetings with the town and representative, and this is a location that they definitely have concerns about. We've looked at other safety improvements. I think we're doing some striping changes right now, or there's a work order to do some striping changes to try to address some of the concerns. But yeah, we recognize it's a difficult location. You know, you will, it's, I don't know what the difference is. Oh, you don't, do you know, Colin, the distance between this and the roundabout?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with the
Okay.
location of stuff.
I mean, there will be opportunities it's a long distance to get to the roundabout that we're building, but I'm just measuring it quick. Yeah, it's 1.5 miles. So yeah, we're aware that it's kind of a difficult location, and we are looking at trying to provide some safety measures to help out with it.
Thank you. We've got a couple comments from Rajesh that I'll read. Adding crosswalks to Route 20 will significantly delay the traffic and risk more accidents, as this section is already dangerous to drive with poor visibility due to curves, sun glare, and elevations. And then he also added, between South Street and Green Street, the Al-Hamra Academy needs a dedicated signal to avoid collisions caused by ongoing traffic. Thank you for both of those comments. Just let me know if you guys want to respond.
Yeah, sure. I'll respond to the comments. I think that, you know, if there is a desire for pedestrians to cross, you know, we certainly want them to cross at crosswalks. That is the safer option, especially here with proposing some pedestrian hybrid beacons where they have to stop for a red light. I think the impacts to vehicles driving along Route 20 and the delay might not be that impactful, maybe not as much as you think. We did not think that it would be too impactful to traffic operations. And then for the South Street, if we go to slide 26, we could look at what's proposed there again. So right now we know there's been issues in the past, and I believe that's why the town made that a ride out only, even today in current conditions. So we're going to keep that ride out only, so that people aren't trying to make a left, but they will be able to go down to the middle roundabout to make a U-turn to then continue west on Route 20. Additionally, going into South Street from the east, there will be a left turn lane where a vehicle can safely wait in its own lane, not the through lane, until it finds an acceptable gap in the traffic and then make its turn.
Thank you, Colin. The next question is from Diana. With the anticipated large warehouse off Centec Boulevard, will there be changes at that intersection, and when might that be? Thank you, Diana.
So I think I'll mention again that in terms of improvements at that intersection, it will probably be largely driven by the UPS development that is proposed. And so we would anticipate that development would likely require some changes at the intersection. But right now, that is something that MassDOT will be working with the town and the developer to address. So we don't know exactly what kinds of changes that would entail and when those changes would be implemented.
All right, thank you. The next question is from Steve. Do you see any problems with autonomous cars and tractor trailers with the roundabouts or fully driverless trucks in the future? Thank you, Steve.
I think this may be a question for everywhere, you know. As of now, I don't think we really considered those, but if, you know, those cars use cameras a lot in the future, they will require good pavement markings to follow the rules. I'm sure the technology will advance to be able to accommodate all of the roadways that it needs to traverse. But as of now, we're not really including that in the roadway design. You know, some traffic signal equipment that we install might include some technologies for some of the more advanced vehicles that will give you anticipated traffic signal green lights. I think that's about where we are in terms of technology so far.
All right, thank you. I'll read some more questions in a moment, but again, as it is past our, you know, what's technically our end time, I'll remind folks that you can submit email comments as well as all these excellent written comments. MassDOT project management at dot.state.ma.us is the email address, and include project file 610825. I'll also remind people that if you do have to leave, when you leave, a survey will pop up in your browser. I think it's like 7 or 8 questions. It's pretty short, and you can even skip any of them that you want, but whatever feedback you're able to give us is very appreciated. So with that, back to the written Q&A. The next one is from John. Propeller trucking on Route 20 between Route 140 and South Street does low bed oversized loads. Will the roundabouts accommodate them? Thank you, John.
Yeah, the low bed trailers are certainly something we're aware of, and including that in the design of the roundabouts. If anyone has a specific information about the size of the trucks or the loads that they want to write in about, we'd be happy to receive those emails.
Great, thank you. Also, I just want to point out that Representative Kane mentioned that the town, as well as herself, have raised the issue on Stony Hill Road with MassDOT. So thank you for providing that information. Looks like the next question is from Steve. Do you see any issues with the busy entrance or exit at Dunkin' Donuts so close to the Rotary? Also, there isn't too much distance between the Valente roundabout and the eastbound entrance to Route 9. Do you see any problems with cars and slower tractor trailers crisscrossing to either continue on Route 20 or exit onto Route 9 eastbound? Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, great questions. If you could go to 28, we could see the Dunkin' and also serves a Granite Works driveway there, kind of to the right of the roundabout. The fact that these are right in, right out really helps. No one's trying to make a left turn. It is close, and Dunkin' is one of the higher use driveways here, so it's a good point. But we believe it's far enough away from the exiting lanes that people will be able to safely make an entrance to Route 20 or an exit into the driveway. And then just to go to 30, you can kind of see in the right lane there to the right of the roundabout heading eastbound, we are proposing some pavement markings that will say Route 9 only. And then before the roundabout, as you're heading towards it eastbound, we will have signs to try and get people into the correct lane even before they reach the roundabout. so that if you want to go Route 9, you're in the right lane. If you want to continue on 20, you're in the left lane. So this is something we've definitely considered. It's a good point.
Excellent. Thank you. The next question is from Diana. Entering Route 20 from Lake Street at the new Market Basket has challenges, especially when school buses are trying to return into their parking area and traffic blocks them from turning left into that bus parking area. Are there any plans to restudy this area now that it is developed? Thank you, Diana.
What I'll say is there aren't really plans to restudy the area at Route 20 in Lake Street, but certainly if there are adjustments to traffic signal timing and things like that are needed since the development has happened and we have real traffic instead of traffic that was projected. That's something that the district office would tend to do, and we can certainly take a look at that location and see what kind of timing improvements we can try to make to help make things work more efficiently at that location. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Cindy. Will there also be a left turn lane into Commons Drive?
Yes, there will. If you go to 27, you can point it out. Commons Drive is at the top there, and you can see a left turn lane on the left side for vehicles wanting to turn into Commons Drive. This is also where the crosswalk will be located.
Thank you. And then final question from John. What is peak traffic on Route 20 in vehicles per hour? And what's the expected rotary throughput in vehicles per hour? Thank you, John.
These are very good questions that I don't have off the top of my head. Average daily traffic, we were looking at future volumes of maybe like 24,000 a day on Route 20. Peak hour, I'm trying to remember, might be around 2,000. But those are those aren't exact numbers, but just generally. And then the rotary, the roundabout throughput. Our analysis showed that they would be able to operate well with minimal queuing at the roundabouts. Exact throughput, I'm not sure of that number.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes sense to go back to the slide with the email, just to remind people that they can follow up via email with some of these really technical questions. They're sometimes hard to recite data on the spot here.
Right, you took the word out of my mouth, actually. So we do not have any other questions, right? No raised hands. This concludes our meeting today on the Route 20 Corridor Improvements Project. We thank you for joining us tonight. And again, your comments are always appreciated. Your feedback is very important to the success of the project. In addition to this meeting, we encourage you to reach out to us with written comments. Emailing us at the address shown on the screen is preferred. We encourage you to do this within 10 business days of this presentation, so your comments can be incorporated into the design where feasible. Please be sure to include the project number 610-825 in the subject line of your email. And some of the technical comments you did have, and we may not have had the answer please feel free to send an email. We will get back with you. Thank you.